This is the most expensive meat you can put on a barbecue. The price of this piece of meat is so high that restaurants only serve the smallest portions of it.
Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
I'm talking about this. This is a beef tenderloin, and this is what happened to me yesterday when I picked this up at my local restaurant wholesaler shop. I put it on the counter and I let the guy scan the tag, and he said, hold on, I think there's something wrong with the price of this piece of meat. And I asked him why, and he said, well, I think it's too expensive. I think the price is not correct. It should be a lot less. And I told the guy, no. The price is right. Of course, I don't mind if you check the price, but you see, this piece of meat cost me over 100 euros, and it's just shy of 2 kilograms, and that's about 4 pounds. If this would have been Wagyu, you might have understood, or a really good prime black Angus, but it's not. It's just a regular version of a beef tenderloin. And of course, I'm gonna put it on a barbecue and see if I can turn this into one of the most delicious pieces of meat that comes from the grill. Of course, I'm not just going to cook a piece of beef, I also want the perfect sauce to go with it. Therefore, I started with peeling and quartering onions, chopped fine large pieces of celery, and of course the same amount of carrots. This trio is called a mirepoix. It's one of the French basis flavor combination that is a good base for any type of sauce. But beside the veggies, we're also going to need some meat as a base for the sauce. And that's why I picked this bag out of my freezer. I put it in probably a couple of months ago and I never looked at it again. If you're like me and you have a freezer like that, just find some beef, some lamb sitting on the bottom, take it out, grill it up, and use it for the sauce. So of course I'm going to need to fire up the barbecue, and I'll be cooking on the Napoleon Kettle Pro grill. I'm going to take out the grill grates, put in some charcoal, a couple of fire starters, light it up. Once it's lit, I'm going to put the grill grates on at the lowest position, just all the way down, directly over the charcoal. And now I'm going to put the meat on. Now this is still half frozen. I just need some sear for flavor on the meat. I'm also going to close the lid so I'm capturing some of the smoke that comes off the charcoal. I'm looking for a really nice deep sear on these pieces of meat. And it's okay to get a little bit of char like this. I would rather have caramelization, but more on the dark side of caramelization. And I like to render down the fat. So these lamb chops are going to be perfect. Nice amount of sear. Of course they got bones, and that has bone marrow in it. That's going to help to add flavor to the sauce. There we go. I'm going to let the barbecue cool down a little bit. And if there's only a little bit of light charcoal in it, like now, then that's going to burn up in about 10 to 15 minutes and give me a smaller fire. Now I'm going to transfer the meat into the pan with the vegetables. I'm also going to add the beautiful, dark, flavorful fat that I rendered out. And everything has to go in. Some fresh herbs from the garden, some rosemary, some thyme, and that goes into the pot. Add water to it. I'm going to top the whole thing off with cold water. Slowly let that come up to a boil, and then just cook everything down for hours and hours. Minimum is 6 hours, but I'd rather go up to 12 hours to get an insane results. After the sauce has been on for about 4 hours, I'm going to start my preparations with this beautiful piece of beef. I already set up my grill for indirect heat so we can focus on this beautiful beef tenderloin. And why is it actually that this beautiful piece of meat is so expensive? That is because it's the most tender cut on a cow. As you can see, it consists of 2 pieces, the main section and this side section. Both of these taste fantastic. The middle part is a little bit more tender than this part right here, but in general, there's not much to differentiate them from. I'm gonna cook this beautiful piece as a whole. And of course, that means that the thinner part is gonna cook a little faster, and the floppy bit that hangs out here needs a little bit of space. The first thing, of course, that I'm gonna do is check if the butcher did a good job with the silver skin. And if there's any left, I'm going to remove it, because that is one thing that's going to make this piece of meat a little bit tough, and that will be a waste. Check the back, look at that giant piece of silver skin. That needs to go. To remove the silver skin, I have to detach this part of meat. I will still leave this connected where I can. Remove that silver skin as much as possible. There we go. A final check, and everything seems to be in order. Those little spots of fat, you want to leave that on. That tastes freaking delicious. I'm going to put on the PITMASTERX beef seasoning, but to make sure that I build up a beautiful crust, I'm going to add a binder. And for the binder, I'll be using some mustard. Just some regular French mustard. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. I'm going to rub that in. It's going to help the seasoning stick to the meat. If you would just be searing this piece of meat, then I would recommend doing a little less seasoning, not building up a crust. Since we're barbecuing and that means smoking, I'm going to put on a nice thick crust of seasoning. And don't worry too much about over seasoning, because this piece of meat still has some flavor and it's thick. So in the end, when you slice it up, it's still going to have plenty of beef flavor. Look at that color developing. That looks really good. Make sure you get all the seasoning on the board. And of course, with a delicate cut like this, I'm going to stick in a wireless thermometer to keep track of that temperature. I'm going to stick it in the middle. And what I want is a core temperature of 54 degrees Celsius for the steak. And therefore I'm going to smoke it on the barbecue at a temperature of 140 degrees Celsius, which is around 290 degrees Fahrenheit. There we go. On the barbecue over indirect heat. Close the lid. And now we're going to let the barbecue do its job. If you want, you can add a little bit more smoke flavor by putting in some smoke wood. But in this case, I'm just going to let the charcoal and the briquettes do their job, creating the smoke flavor for me. Time to separate the vegetables and the meat from the base of the sauce. There we go. You can already see that beautiful color popping up. It's not as dark as it needs to be yet, but it's going to give us a good indication of what this can be in the future. Get all that moisture out, all the grease, everything. We need all of it. Now I'm going to reduce this as fast as I can. I'm just going to set this to high. Make sure that I don't put the lid on, get it up to a boil, and then just let it boil until it reduces. It's a lot of effort, but it's well worth it. I just got the notification that our beautiful beef tenderloin is done. So it's time to take it off. Don't waste any time now. If the thermometer says take it off, you take it off. Oh. You see how the outside dried up? And we have that beautiful crust-like consistency. And that means that our outside is now crunchy and flavorful. And maybe most important, it contrasts with the soft, tender meat inside. And contrast in a dish is something that I'm always looking for. At these temperatures is always a question, do I need to let it rest? Well, if you go real slow and you're cooking until a low core temperature, then I would say, no, you don't have to. But I'm feeling this roast. It feels kind of hot at the moment on the outside, on the crust, so I'm just going to give it about 5 to 10 minutes just to relax a little bit. All right, let's slice into this. So soft and tender, it's like the slices are so delicate. There we go. Look at that. That is one tasty slice of beef. Let me show you how tender this is. And it's actually so tender. As a matter of fact, this is the only piece of beef that you can just take a fork and slice it with your fork. Let's give it a try. Oh, wow. The combination of the mustard and the seasoning is really, really fantastic. It is a shame that it's so expensive, but personally, I still enjoy it a lot. Now let's finish that sauce. I got my reduced stock. To that, I'm going to add some Merlot or some other powerful flavored red wine that's going to pair well with steak, because most likely this is also the wine that you're going to drink with the steak. There we go. I'm going to add about a glass to a cup of the beef stock. 125 grams of butter. Fire it up, let it come up to a boil. And for seasoning the sauce, because we haven't done that yet, I'm going to use the PITMASTERX beef seasoning. And that's going to make sure that we pair it well with our beef. So I'm going to add about half a tablespoon of that. Once it's up to a boil, I'm going to put it in a nice plate. And when you have a beautiful reduction sauce like this, use a white plate so you get a nice big contrast. And of course, in the middle goes the beef. Just going to take 2 thin slices. There we go. Look at that. You can serve this up just like this. You don't need to add anything. If it looks as beautiful as this, don't add any greens to it, because in its simplicity, it is a work of art. You already added plenty of seasoning, you added a beautiful sauce to it, and now your guest gets to enjoy it. Or you just eat the whole thing alone. Hey, see you guys in the next one.